Do you have your candle wax ready?
I wish.
Just the nipple clamp. Will that be enough?
I only hurt the ones I love, and none of them are here.
Oh. I'm so sorry.
MLVC.
Excuse me, but I'm singing in one key and you're singing in another.
Poor is the man whose pleasures depend on the permission of another.
Open the door now and suffocate.
Just give me a fan.
I don't trust any man who hasn't kissed another man.
I'm waiting.
All right, people, it's time to get your dancing shoes on. You're listening to MLVC. It's all Madonna, all the time.
Welcome to the party, bitches.
Hey, everybody. It's Ben.
Hey, everybody. It's Liberty.
We're here to teach you how to...
Is that your Rebecca Carlson voice, Liberty?
I don't know. Is it?
Hey, everybody. It's Stefan. Welcome to another edition of MLVC, the Madonna podcast, your place for all things Madonna, Louise, Veronica Ciccone. Well, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's the final edition of this year's Madonna Summer Movie Series. How on earth does summer go by so quickly? If you remember, we kicked things off this summer watching Dick Tracy. Last month, we talked about A League of Their Own, and to heat things up before autumn, we're doing a little deep dive on the titillating courtroom drama, Body of Evidence.
Body of Evidence is the 1993 erotic thriller film directed by Uli Edel, written by Brad Meerman and starring Madonna, Willem Dafoe, and Joe Mantegna, along with Anne Archer and Julianne Moore in supporting roles. The plot revolves around Madonna's character, Rebecca Carlson, being accused of murdering an elderly and very wealthy man named Andrew Marsh by having such raucous sex with him. He dies of a coke-induced heart attack. Willem Dafoe plays Frank Delaney, her lawyer, who gets a bit too involved with Rebecca, his client.
You make it sound so good, but unfortunately for Madonna kids, Body of Evidence was a flop. In every way a movie can be a flop. It got delayed. It came out in January of 1993, which along with August is usually like the graveyard for movies they know aren't going to do well. And its second week in theaters, it experienced a 60% viewership drop. I would like you to know that I saw it the first week it was out.
Same.
And yeah, I mean, I'm not getting that afternoon back, but whatever. It made a measly worldwide total of $38 million. Now, originally, Body of Evidence got an NC-17 rating, but they trimmed a few minutes of Madonna's cha-cha and her choo-choo and her cuckoo-la-wah to get an R rating for theaters. The trimmed footage was restored for video release, so when you go and watch it on Tubi this weekend, you'll get to see all the bits. Now, the film appeared on the 2005 list of Roger Ebert's most hated films. His colleague Gene Siskel called Body of Evidence a stupid and empty thriller. Now, okay, as a writer, I have to say, bad script, but some of the one-liners. Anyway, co-star Julianne Moore later regretted acting in the film and went on to call it a big mistake, even though she got to slap the shit out of Madonna.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there is a lot to take in about Body of Evidence. Let's just start from the beginning and we'll talk about Madonna in the movie. What do we think about Madonna as Rebecca Carlson?
Where do we start?
Well, actually, first, Liberty, can we say you are doing an amazing tribute to Madonna as Rebecca Carlson right now? You need to cosplay Rebecca Carlson.
You really do.
Whenever there's a Madonna con, you need to cosplay. This look is Rebecca Carlson interrogation scene, yes?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Before she knew about being in the will, you know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But she had seen animals make love.
Yeah,
Right.
She had. It's violent. But they never really hurt each other.
But we're not animals. Yes, we are.
Hurt the ones you love.
It wasn't dirty.
No, not to you, not to Andrew. But people here have very conservative views about sex.
No, they don't. They just don't talk about it. They're such hypocrites.
Well, those hypocrites are going to be sitting in the jury box listening to Garrett say how you led Andrew into perversion.
I didn't have to lead him anywhere. Andrew knew exactly what he wanted. All we did was make love.
In handcuffs.
It was different, but it was still making love. Have you ever seen animals make love, Frank? It's intense. It's violent. But they never really hurt each other.
We're not animals.
Yes, we are.
Oh my God, help us.
I mean, I think like I would say her performance for me, it's summed up in that scene in the car when they're in the car and she's like, you know, I get this. I get like when she delivers this line where she's asking how much, you know, is in the will, and she's looking at him like she totally knows. And you know, later in the movie,
Spoiler alert.
yeah, okay, spoiler alert.
Right, spoiler alert. If you've not seen Body of Evidence, pause and go watch Body of Evidence, because we're going to talk all about the spoilers and the fact, like, surprise, surprise, Madonna's not the goody two shoes. Oh, I keep freezing on Zoom.
Actually, I think people should watch the episode, get all this context, and then go watch the movie. You might actually enjoy it more.
Maybe that's a good
True.
idea.
That's what I think.
Yeah. Let's back up. Let's talk about the movie as a whole.
Okay.
So there's a lot going on in the movie. I think they marketed Body of Evidence to be erotic thriller, very much in the same vein that Basic Instinct, which came out a year prior to Body of Evidence, was very successful at being. It was erotic, it was action-packed, it was thrill-tastic. The sex scenes were adventurous, you know, and then Body of Evidence comes out a year later, and I think Body of Evidence just seemed, you know, I didn't know it was going to be a courtroom drama, and most of the movie is just her sitting in court staring at people giving testimonies. And I never like courtroom dramas.
Yeah, it's like dirty Matlock. Like, why?
Yeah.
Come on, Madonna. Get on the top of the car, bust out some lights with your heels. Stick to what you can do here.
Yeah, I just felt like there was no, like, not that they needed a car chase, but like maybe crazy Ann Archer goes after them and on the bridge when, you know, Madonna's talking about animals making love, and then all of a sudden there's someone trying to rear end them and run them off the road, and like, you know, Madonna almost dies or she gets knocked unconscious or she's in the hospital. You're like, there's a whole lot of other stuff.
Or she sleeps with the DA. I would have advocated for that plot twist. I'm just saying.
There was just a lot of potential. You know, you have Madonna in a sexual thriller, and it doesn't really come across very sexy.
No.
Even the sex scenes seemed kind of like plotting and
procedural.
Boring. Yeah, it just like, I mean, look, I am not saying Madonna is bad in this movie. I'm saying the movie is bad, and unfortunately Madonna was in it, because there is a stellar cast of people in this movie, and even they can't seem good in the movie because it's just like a bunch of schlock, you know, like
the script. You got to start with the script. Has a bunch of fun, campy zingers, but that's it.
Yeah.
As a movie script, it makes no sense. It's worse than a Lifetime movie of the week starring Shannon Doherty or Alyssa
Meredith
Milano.
Baxter Burney.
Yeah. Like, it's just, oh my goodness.
Well, that's the thing, is they don't camp it up. Like, it's done so seriously that there's nothing, like, even when there's a bit of levity in it, like when Willem Dafoe and the son at the restaurant, and they're like, did she really, like, you know, bonk him to death, or however they use and Julianne Moore is like, you're a bad influence on him, and you know, like, even that's not funny. You know, there's no levity to it. It's all just like really serious. And like the fact that they shoot it in Seattle, like the weather,
Portland. It's shot in Portland,
Oregon. That's right. I'm sorry. But it just seems like doom and gloom from the get go. Like everything about it is just like
the palette is washed.
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
that was a weird, like, setting for that film. I mean, I could have seen a different place. Why would she be living in Portland? I don't know why. It just Rebecca Carlson just
It's
didn't
a
strike
vivid
me.
art scene in 1992.
Was it?
Evidently,
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. It was the height of grunge. Like, where was all the flannel? Because I'm like, that whole area was like, Nirvana and Alice in Chains and whoever those bands were. I didn't like grunge. Sorry, kids, I didn't like
Pearl
grunge.
Jam.
I didn't like Pearl Jam.
I think they put it
sorry,
in Oregon
sidebar.
because they needed Rebecca's sexual life to be scandalous. If
Right.
they had put Rebecca in New York City, why would Rebecca having like S&M sex be scandalous? And
Especially 4 months after the sex book had just come out.
right.
Yeah.
And had been photographed at the Gaiety and all these other places.
Yeah, so I think they needed a location to sort of make it seem as if what she was doing would be a big fuss in the community.
In that case, it should have been in the Bible Belt.
Or St. Louis. It should have been in St. Louis.
Yeah, that would have
She
worked.
could have been Louise Oriole from St. Louis, the character from Bad Girl.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I think there's a lot of opportunities that they've missed in this because there are so many ways to have inserted twists, turns, to fine tune the script more where there's not, I mean, to me, it was, I guess I am a sucker. I did believe, because I was able to actually suspend my remembering because it's been a long time since I watched the movie. When I watched it last night, I was like, wait, did she kill him or did she not? Or was it, it must have been the secretary all the way till the part where she's like, you almost convinced me.
Mm-hmm.
Where I guess I thought, what she did do it, and then
that's what I feel like they did. Again, I'm going to compare body of evidence to Basic Instinct. I felt like in Basic Instinct, you were like back and forth. Is Sharon Stone the villain? Is she not? Is there somebody else? What's going on? You didn't know. It was a whodunit. It was a mystery the whole time that movie was going on. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Body of Evidence, it was almost just like, did she kill him? But who cares? It's just this old man, I was almost applauding Madonna at the end when I was just like, good for you, Madonna, off this old man and get the $8 million.
Also, she was having to do all the work on that tape. So I had no sympathy for him. I've just got to say,
girlfriend,
come on.
I gotta love how so I don't know if you noticed this in the credits, they do it in order of appearance.
Oh,
and Madonna's first. And I was like, what? And I was like, oh, yes, that's right. Because she's the first person we see going at it in that home porno movie. Again,
reverse cowgirl. She's getting busy. Her abs looked amazing in that shot.
Her body looks amazing.
Listen, 90 through 94, Madonna was serving body yaddy yaddy. Oh my goodness. It wasn't until she had her hernia around the time that Bedtime Stories came out that she got voluptuous again. I mean, she was just fit as all get out.
So
oh my goodness.
Okay, let's talk. All right, since we're on Madonna and the way she looked, can we talk about the styling in this movie? I thought,
absolutely.
I think she looks so frumpy in this movie. I feel like just wait for a second. There are moments
we're hearing you out.
There are moments where I think she looks beautiful. Like, for instance, Liberty's background on her video right now, flawless Madonna. She looks beautiful. However, it's a little, and I get it. They're trying to make Rebecca Carlson look more puritanical than this wild sex bot who maybe offed this older man. So they're trying to dress her up. But it's like, I just feel like even the styling when she's not on trial, it's just a little too conservative, frumpy, where there's a interview that Madonna does for the press junket for Body of Evidence in 1993. And she looks gorgeous. Like
those flipped
that
bangs
middle
and the wavy
hair,
hair from Saturday Night Live when she did Fever
exactly.
and Bad
She looks
Girl.
exactly like Bad Girl,
Oh.
Saturday Night Live. It's that look. And I was like, why does Madonna in Body of Evidence look like 10 years older than the version that we see doing the press junket? It's just very strange.
Okay, but if you go back and you look at like the fall shows from that time period, because in those days I cared about fashion. I had no money, but I was a fashion hoe and would try and try and try. And I had Vogue, Vanity Fair, GQ, all that crap. The style in that movie was sort of a very specific sort of business style, like the suits, like all the guys, their suits are that sort of like a ripoff of that Armani look from the early 90s that is kind of making a comeback, and like the big wide pants and the sort of like very tailored that's boxy, but then there's like flashes of like fitted, which is again all coming back. Like it kind of was a very specific style, but I think part of the frumpiness comes from the crap cinematography, the crap lighting, and just like the gloomy atmosphere.
Yeah.
Like if those same clothes had been better lit and maybe some better palettes, because it is all super muted. It's like pale, like grays and blacks and like some really washed out blues. You're like, ugh. And everything is like, and then a lot of the sort of fabric that happens throughout the movie, like those weird chiffon style curtains that she has. And like that repeats in various points of the movie. And I remember thinking about this when I saw it in the theater. I was like, for somebody who's was such a fashion play, because think about it, she was in Vogue and Vanity Fair with those Stephen Meisel shoes.
Gorgeous. Oh my God, gorgeous.
Yeah, like she was fashion everything in late 92 and early 92 when they filmed this. And so the fashion is all like very of the moment and actually making a comeback, but like it's the lighting and like the washed out. I mean, look at all of our backdrops when we were making those. Look how washed out they are. I mean, Julianne Moore is freaking gorgeous in this movie, but she is lit like a second tier soap actress, which she had been a couple years before that. But
right, exactly. Like even super young. I mean, what is Julianne Moore, like 24 in this movie? I mean, she's so young in this movie, and she doesn't look amazing. I mean, she does look amazing, but the lighting,
and make
the
her
color
look older,
palette,
actually.
I do. I think that's the thing. There's so many close-ups of Madonna in this movie where I feel like I'm like, oh, they are not doing her any favors. They have not lit her well in this at all.
It was like a weird washed out natural light in a lot of her close-ups, like the scene in the bathroom, which the two of you have as your backdrops, with that nice sort of like slanted top lighting. Oh, it like that was the one. As I was going through, I was like, oh my God, they look so good in this scene. Like their hair and their makeup and everything is on point. Because in some of her close-ups, Madonna was looking like super tired. And I'm like, where is the makeup and lighting team? Like, I know. Oh, they did her dirty.
They totally did.
She's what, 34 when she made this movie?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But her
34.
body looked great.
Oh my
her body
God.
looked great. And maybe that's the point. I don't know. I mean, maybe they were, they were trying to make her look a little like stressed out to help, the person, viewer buy that she may have, just be a not guilty person on trial.
Right.
And,
she's the victim.
Right. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
Well, I was going to say, it goes back to what Stefan was saying about it being a courtroom procedural, and they were going for this like gritty realism. And I think that lends itself. That's why I said it's like Dirty Matlock, because it's like this very boring flat lighting and sort of unimaginative camera angles that don't elevate it to like the pop of other movies that you had at the time that were a little more saturated with the color and still had like the classic studio Hollywood lighting. Like, they did her dirty.
But there was just even just like the direction of the movie was so boring. Like the shot compositions, the way they filmed it, so let's just obviously there's multiple sex scenes in this movie, and even the scoring, the musical scoring under those sex scenes is just baffling. Like
there's weird sound things.
Straight up Skinamax.
Like the car hood, the hood in the car where she like cracks the glass, and then they're like, as the cars from the parking garage are driving by, and he's going to town in her muffin, and there's like this do 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 in the background. I'm like, what is this music? It's like some like Atari video game going on in the background. It's just
so distracting.
Yeah, and like you were talking about the chiffon curtains. I remember watching it, and I was like, I kept wanting to move the chiffon curtain out of the way because I was like, I can't see Madonna. I'm like, can we please move the chiffon curtain out of the way because we're totally blocking her.
When I was a kid, I liked to steal strawberries. I'd sneak into the neighbor's yard at the end of the street, and I remember they had a big fence, and I'd always scrape my knees climbing over it. And then on the other side, they had these wild rose bushes, and the thorns would dig into my legs and cut my thighs when I slid down. But the strawberries always tasted so sweet.
Because of how much it hurt to get them.
I kind of like some of the shots, like some of the stills in the movie, or like the shots where they're showing, a big, like the houseboat, for example, or, I like some of the settings.
I love her house. I thought her house was fantastic.
I know. I would love to live there. I mean, but of course there's just so many like trips, with the chiffon curtains, for example, they're the only thing blowing. You go inside, it's still as can be. Like, there's she has a lot of plants. The leaves aren't moving at all. Like, it's weird. There are some sound issues too, though, where you can hear, like, I think when he's like going upstairs, you hear like whispers or moans or something. And I guess I don't know if it's supposed to be like he's thinking he's hearing her, but that too, is it a dream sequence or not? It's funny on the sound. As I watched those credits go by, one of the sound editors was named Richard Marx with Marx. I don't know if it's the one and only Richard Marx.
Oh,
but
I doubt it.
I hope not.
It was the last one named in the whole list of sound editors. But
oh my goodness. All right. Should we talk about her performance? Let's just get to the nitty gritty.
Yes.
I feel like we've been, but yeah.
But to isolate her performance as Rebecca Carlson, obviously, I think she did convincing job at playing someone who is pretending she was not guilty.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's just that her lines are she delivers them with a snicker in some parts. And so the face is not saying what the line is saying. And it's hard. Again, I always have trouble differentiating between thinking it's Madonna and thinking it's Rebecca Carlson just because it's Madonna and I love Madonna.
Right.
Is that intentional in the delivery of the line? Is it supposed to make me go, you little faker there? Or am I just supposed to, think she's really so surprised that she's laughing about the fact that she could have, inherited $8 million. But at the end, again, like I said, when you discover that there was a whole plot to get this $8 million, then you realize she's thinking in that moment, my plan worked. Wow.
You're a little late. I needed to know before he testified. Why the fuck did you warn me at least?
Did you need to hear about every man I ever had sex with?
No, just the ones with bad hearts who put you in their wills.
You think I killed Andrew?
So does everyone in that courtroom. You made me look like shit in there.
You are not on trial.
Oh, the hell I'm not. I must have been out of my mind to get involved with you.
To make love to me?
Yes. But I'm not going to compound my mistakes. You're my client. That's it. I don't want to have anything to do with you beyond that.
Just like that?
Yeah.
Like I don't have any feelings?
Hey, I'm not your type. I'm too young and healthy.
That's not fair, Frank.
No. But it's accurate.
Fuck you too.
I took I literally saw this movie in the theater in
Same.
1993, and
I
then
did
I
too.
saw it 2 nights ago. Those are the only 2 times I've watched it. My takeaway on her performance both times is it seems like she's constantly on the verge of breaking out laughing at how ridiculous her dialogue is. And so I think what you were getting at, Liberty, is that chips away at your ability to suspend your disbelief and really enter into the movie. And then the problem of it is all the other characters, except for maybe Willem Dafoe and Anne Archer, are doing the exact same thing. They're just better actors at covering up their potential giggles.
Right.
Because like literally every time Joe Mantegna, who's a fantastic actor, and we should point out, worked with Madonna on Speed the Plow in 1988 in Broadway. Even so the scenes, I started paying attention. I'm like, oh my God, he's literally like trying not to like fart on set because this is so bad. And he knows it. And it's like, and it got worse movies aren't filmed in order, but you could kind of tell from like the length of her hair and certain shaping on her eyebrows, like things that were filmed later. And you're like, oh yeah, she's figured out this is garbage. And she's just like trying not to burst out laughing. Like the whole scene in the car with the animals line, like she is on the verge. I wish there were bloopers or outtakes, because I bet the two of them burst out giggling numerous times.
I saw this also in high school. I went with my like boyfriend of 2 weeks. Okay. So awkward. What was
How'd
I
that
thinking?
Work? Yeah, really.
It was so embarrassing.
What did you do after the movie?
Well, I wasn't that kind of girl, if you're asking. But I'm sure he was probably terrified because he was like kind of a nice guy. And I mean, I'm like, oh, can you go see this Madonna movie with me? And I don't think I knew what it was going to be about. I just knew it had Madonna.
Sure, Jan.
I'm serious. Like, it's strange, but.
And then I went down to the Quarter booth theater afterward because I had to like cleanse my palate of this awful movie.
Yeah, it was so embarrassing. I'm sure and especially watching it on Tubi, and I'm like, I can't believe I was like 16 or something in watching this movie in the theater with another teenage boy, and like. That's a lot of sex I don't know. Now maybe it's because I'm not a prude, but I mean, it's just, I can't visualize myself having that experience. And it's really difficult for me to imagine that my son, who is now 15,
I would love to hear what your date thought about you after
that's
that
what
movie.
I want to know. But what's extra funny that to build on your point, Liberty, is to like watch this movie. And I told the two of you earlier, it caused me to then also go watch Basic Instinct. And I'm like, where are those kind of movies now?
Yeah,
like,
where are
it's so crazy to me to think that these movies came out in 1992 and 93. And then you had Sliver in 93 or 94. And you had The Last Seduction with Linda Fiorentino. Oh my God. Listeners, if you have not seen The Last Seduction, you need to go watch that. That if you really want to encapsulate that early 90s period of like erotic thrillers, obviously you have to watch Basic Instinct, but then you have to go watch The Last Seduction. That movie is so good.
I'll have to check that out.
It's so crazy to me that those movies were coming out then, and I can't imagine. I mean, other than being like a series on maybe HBO, I can't imagine big screen movies like that anymore. People have so rejected that kind of adult cinema. And I'm like, and it's people like our age who were the teenagers and young adults when these movies came out. And now we don't support that kind of movie as almost like middle age. And so I'm so fascinated by that arc and how Madonna plays into that as somebody who catalyzed this sort of like expression of sexuality in the culture through the 80s. And then it sort of apexed with, Blonde Ambition, Justify My Love, The Sex Book, Erotica. And then it fully imploded for her as a cultural thing with this movie.
Yeah.
God, yeah, go on. Sorry.
Well, that's what I thought was so fascinating rewatching Body of Evidence was she got so much slack for doing this movie because of how sexual it was. And it was about her being involved in like an S&M style sexual nature. And yet 20 years later, 50 Shades of Grey, 1, 2, and 3 were huge. And Jamie Dornan and Melanie Griffith's daughter, what's her clogs, were like
Dakota Johnson.
Thank you. Were hailed as like superstars, and they were given like, and personally.
Okay, but I have to ask a question because I haven't seen those movies. Are they as explicit as Body of Evidence?
No, but it's almost as if like Madonna was being made a villain for being sexual in this movie. And then Dakota Johnson was being hailed as like
liberated.
Yeah. Like good for her. She found this man who wants to please her and pleasure her. And it's just weird how Madonna goes ahead and does this. And because she's a woman in charge of the sexual, proclivity, she's being chastised. Whereas Jamie Dornan, who is this hot guy, I mean, yes, but like, because it's reversed, it's okay. I just thought that was very interesting.
Well, but it goes back to what Liberty was saying earlier about people's reaction to it and not separating Madonna from the character. And the narrative for Madonna in the culture at the time was there was a movement post the sex book and erotica to chastise her.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I'm surprised that the studios didn't just be like, okay, we're shelving this and taking the tax write-off because it's going to tank. I very specifically remember her interview about Body of Evidence with Bryant Gumbel on the Today Show and how absolutely combative, also go find this on YouTube, kids.
Yep.
How combative he tried to be with her. And, just like with Forrest Sawyer, wait, was that his name? The Justify My Love video guy. And all the other male journalists who tried to come for her, like she kept her cool, and she would smirk and she would sort of flip it back and be like, well, what about this? Like, why am I getting
Julianne
this?
Moore has sex, so what's the, you see her body, and in the Tubi version, guys, we see Willem Dafoe's balls.
Yes.
Just saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was
part
like,
of the
look,
footage.
there's that before, it was well before you had those intimacy coaches. And I guarantee you there were no like privacy patches covering Madonna's hoo-ha and Willem Dafoe's ding dong. And
he would have had a cock sock on. Even then they had cock socks.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like in the 90s they were just loose and free like that. Like
they
just let it all go. Like they were real, like it was like
everybody just got a penicillin shot after the scene.
Oh, gross. And I'm not actually in the Julianne Moore and Willem Dafoe scene, they're all sweaty and like,
oh, I mean, it was like
that's
real.
Believable.
Like, it's really Willem Dafoe had his face in Madonna's naked crotch. Like, I don't know what kind of privacy patch, but even still, it's like privacy patch or not, his face is still right next to her butt.
Right in there.
Okay, but can we talk about how that brief shot of him pleasing her and just the way that was framed, that actually was one part of the movie I appreciated for being so far ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Because, now there's entire sort of like memified discourses on social media and OnlyFans that are all framed toward like that perspective of pleasure. And it was super far ahead of its time. I mean, even in Basic Instinct, the Catherine Trammell character is powerful, but doesn't exercise the power quite in that same way. And that was a giant leap forward from, say, some of the 80s movies that were exploring this stuff, like Fatal Attraction, 9.5 Weeks. Oh my God, I'm blanking on another one that came out in like 87. Anyway, not to belabor that point, but I do think it's important in thinking about this movie, in thinking about the time that it came out 30 and a half years ago versus now, because our perspective now is like, right? Because we've seen so much more.
We've seen it all.
We've seen so much more thanks to the internet, which, remember, kids, barely existed when this movie came out.
Right. If you were seeing as much skin as you were in a movie theater, it was a XXX movie theater. Like
absolutely good point.
Body of Evidence was one of the first I mean, obviously there was Basic Instinct as well, but like those were major Hollywood motion pictures with huge celebrities in them. They weren't pornos. I mean, obviously you didn't see full-blown XXX sex, but it got an NC-17 rating because it was pretty hardcore for a movie.
I'm trying to remember. I obviously the shot with his testes was not in the theater version, and I know the scene on top of the car was much shorter in the theater version, because when I was rewatching it this week, I was like, oh, I don't remember him like reenacting Where Life Begins so much. I'm gonna keep it on point with the music. It was fun to see the parallels of what she had wrote about in the Erotica album and then what was in the movie. And I just thought, I think the movie also didn't do well from word of mouth perspective, because you had Erotica, the album, the sex book, and then the movie came out, and all of those, the 1, 2, 3 punch against Madonna, it was
almost
like
3-strike thing.
It was just too much. I think people were just done seeing Madonna have sex.
Which is so weird, because it hit. All of these things came out at the end of Bush 1's presidency. We had just elected Clinton. He had the gayest inauguration we had ever seen. Melissa Etheridge had come out, and it was Katie Lang, and it was just like,
oh yeah.
I mean,
that's right.
I can't emphasize how much 90 through 92 just felt like this period where we were nearing the end of the AIDS crisis, even though 1992 saw the most deaths in America of any years of the actual crisis years. But it did feel like the culture was starting to change, and that there was being this sort of exploration of queerness and permissiveness and mainstreaming without it necessarily being assimilative. And so it was always weird to me that, and I think you're right, Stefan, that it was too much. In my dream sequencing, the movie would have never existed. Erotica would have come out first without the book, and then the book would have come out a little bit later. Because I think the book coming out first doomed the album, because the album was erotica and it was supposed to be sexy, but really it was a bunch of sad love songs about how shitty it is to date in your 30s.
Right.
It was really about, someone said romance is dead and I believe them instead. And those songs have held up over time, which has resulted in the revisitation of the critical take on that album as one of her little masterpieces, but it just got swallowed in the middle of the sex book and the movie and just the hideous press of the movie. So in my dream revisionist history, the album came out first, and then the book came out as a special edition with remix CDs embedded into the cover, and it was looked at more as an art object versus this weird thing that it became.
Well, anyway. That happened. It just happened 30 years later.
Yes.
It finally got its due. The movie will never get its due.
Oh, no, and it shouldn't, because that screenwriter, I hope that's an alias and no one actually knows who this Brad guy is.
Yeah.
That's all, yeah.
It was just, so let's talk about the ending. So spoiler alert, Madonna was guilty, and good for her. I loved that. I think that's when the movie really picks up for me.
Yeah.
Is when she leans in and she's like, "You almost convinced me." Then I loved it. Then I was like, "Oh, she actually is guilty." And I wanted a bit more of the evil Rebecca Carlson, because that's when I felt like Madonna was having fun in the movie. Up until that point, it all just felt very somber and serious and plotting and boring. And Rebecca just felt like, oh, poor me.
It felt like a 40s noir movie.
Yeah.
That Madonna always loved from that point on. So honestly, that whisper should have been the end of Act 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, like it's almost like, kind of thinking back a little bit about what you were just talking about with this 1, 2, 3, the film, unfortunately, what it does is it does sort of vilify sex. It does make sex and place playful sex or experimental sex, let's say, tacky or, it confirms people's, idea about what that kind of sex is. And so it's sad because that's not the message she was sort of giving with the sex book. It almost counters it, in a strange undercurrent.
Made you roll your eyes.
Yeah.
Right. And I would have liked a little bit more hint earlier, I think, if she had, like we maybe considered, slept with the DA, for example, or something that was really a twist that, early on in the film, we could have, because I found myself feeling sorry for her, until that point, where you think, oh, poor Rebecca, like she's so misunderstood. She just likes to fuck. Like, what's the problem? It has nothing to do with money. And then in the end, it has everything to do with money.
Yeah. I think if they had restructured the story of that movie, like, so it starts off with a murder. And I think that's supposed to be the intrigue, is like, oh, someone killed somebody. That's the hook. But I think had they structured it differently, where maybe the murder happened midway through, and they start the movie where Rebecca is trying to get involved with Willem Dafoe's character prior to her offing the old man. And then maybe like the tension comes from her, like being this sort of conniving, like breaking their marriage up, getting him hooked on her. And then maybe the old man dies and he's too involved. And you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like there was way, but I wish that we had gotten a little bit more of the Rebecca after, it's like we find out she was guilty, and then 5 minutes later she's coming up from the, she gets shot out the window and she dies in the ocean.
Oh yeah. I think back to your original thing, like the first act of the movie, like we shouldn't even have seen the murder or the victim or any of it. It should have started with the trial, and we're like jumped in medias res, like in the middle of the plot. And we learn details through the testimony in Act 1.
That would have been great.
Willem Dafoe is already the lawyer. Joe Mantegna is the DA. And there's like there's some of the witnesses.
Is it your sworn testimony that by coincidence alone, you happened to date both Andrew Marsh, who died from a combination of sex and drugs, and the doctor who treated him for drug poisoning?
Portland's a small city. I even dated a man who dated a woman you dated.
Do you think you're capable of just answering the questions put to you?
I'm just trying to explain myself.
And then she gets off, does the whisper. Then Willem Dafoe's character and Joe Mantegna's character have to team up.
Yes.
And that's when we discover the ex-lover. Like, we won't tangent on the problematic thing with the doctor who ended up being gay. That was like,
that was
messy.
just so
it was gross.
I'd also,
but they could have done something interesting. Yeah, they could have done something interesting with it if that would have been part of Act 2. The former lovers, Willem Dafoe and Joe Mantegna, are like, wait a second, something's not right. And so they try to figure out how to get her, and they discover all these people from her past, and also discover that she's working with the ER doctor. And then the third act is like, could have went like almost erotic action thriller. She's like screwing everybody, and they're trying to get her before she gets out of the country. But then, like, what's his face shoots her.
Yeah, it just would have been. It was so problematic in the speed with which the movie happens. I feel like the storytelling structure, it's too linear. Like it's just like it starts from the death, and then we just plod through so slowly, going. Who's on trial now? This and that. But it's like, I feel like we could have, like, like Memento, that movie with Guy Pearce, where he has the short-term memory loss. And so they're telling things, and it's like, you have to sort of like, you have to remember, they're telling the movie in reverse because he doesn't remember and he's trying to figure out what happened to him. I'm like, body of evidence could have been told very structurally different than how they tell it. And I think it would have been much more interesting. There was potential.
Yeah. Well, and also just not having the whole thing be a courtroom procedural.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
it was too boxed in.
Yeah, you literally pointed out that your favorite part is the last 15 minutes that are basically like a Mae West movie from 1948. Like legit.
I mean, come on. I love when he goes to her house at the very end and she's just like yelling at the German, Austrian, who is he?
Whatever he is,
whatever.
Who is he? Who was he? Like he was.
Nobody knows.
He was an actor who worked with the director, like in Europe.
Oh no, I mean, what was his character again?
He was the ER doctor.
He was the doctor.
Oh,
yeah,
he was the doctor who gave her the nasal spray to knock him off.
Yeah, they were the co-conspirators.
Right. Okay, this was what I was going to come to with the why. Oh, why did Madonna get such ugly men to star opposite her in this movie? First of all, Willem Dafoe. Why? What? There was no hotter men in 1992, 93
I think that
could
was
have
purposeful.
cast with her.
Yeah.
Like he was just awful. And I get it.
I don't know. He worked for the character. Like
I just would have.
I
wanted somebody hotter. I felt like their chemistry was terrible. Second, the doctor. Are we really to believe Madonna would be interested in having sex with the doctor? Like, third.
Okay, but you just said Madonna having sex with the doctor, not Rebecca Carlson. So see, there we give ourselves away with the failure to suspend disbelief, because Rebecca Carlson, the character, would 100% have sex with all these congestive heart failure geezers that she's trying to get their millions. Like,
Okay, I get
like
it. But
she on a host role, and we can't disrespect the host role.
I just always want Madonna to have hot co-stars.
Well,
I thought I had the same thought, Stefan. I was like, ugh, Willem Dafoe is just so unpleasant to look at to me. And that's just me personal, like I thought, I mean, at least.
Like, why not Joe Mantegna? Like, I would have actually preferred her,
those two,
her being involved with Joe Mantegna, because I think Joe Mantegna he's a handsome guy, Willem Dafoe just looks weird. He has a weird
I've
face.
always thought that.
Like, always.
He's a good actor,
I didn't mind him.
Good actor, but
he worked for the character.
I mean, okay. However, Julianne Moore marrying Willem Dafoe? No. I get that Rebecca Carlson's character would want to go and have sex with Frank Delaney because she's using Frank for her own devices. But Julianne Moore, there is no way Julianne Moore is having sex with Willem Dafoe and getting married.
People see your car down by the river in front of her goddamn houseboat. It gets back to me, Frank.
She's my client. I'm allowed to have conferences with my client.
Of course you are. Why can't you have them in your office?
I can't believe you listen to this bullshit gossip.
I talked to her.
What?
She called here tonight looking for you.
What did she say?
She didn't have to say anything. I could hear it in her voice, in the way that she said your name.
You're making this up.
What did she do to you, Frank? How did you get those marks on your chest? What are they? What are they? Bites? What happened to your back? I thought we were happy. I thought we were a family. I trusted you.
It has nothing to do with you.
You son of a bitch. How dare you stand there and say that to me?
I love you. You're my wife.
Go pack some things. I don't want to see you when I get home.
Please, Sharon, I don't want to lose you.
Then you shouldn't have fucked her.
That's why she was so quick to be like, it's over. She was like, thank God he slept with somebody else. I can go on and find somebody hotter now.
Yeah.
I thought we were a family.
One of my only favorite moments in the courtroom scenes is when Rebecca is on trial and it's that very emotional moment where she's crying and this and that. And Joe Mantegna is like grilling her. And he's like, well, of course you would say that because he's not even in the room. And then she's like, yes, he is. Ask him yourself. And like, that's when it's like supposed to be this, and the camera pans over and then the guy stands up because like, she's like, oh, it's the lover guy that, he was heart congestive failure and he was having sex with a man, and you could say that because he's not even. Yes, he is. And then they pan and he just stands up.
But I already testified I didn't know anything about Andrew's heart.
But you knew about Ralston's.
Yes.
And when you couldn't induce a heart attack before he had surgery to repair it, you bailed out. He wasn't any good to you. Isn't that right?
I left him when I found him in bed with someone else.
And that was grounds for leaving, as sexually liberated as you are?
I couldn't compete.
You couldn't compete. What was she possibly doing? Was she using a razor blade?
He was in bed with another man. I never knew that about him. I felt betrayed. I couldn't handle it, so I left. And it was easier for him to think that I left because of the money, but I left because I couldn't stay.
Mr. Ralston isn't here to defend himself. You can say anything you want about him.
Yes, he is. Ask him yourself.
Nods his head.
Walks out.
Then walks out.
It was like so bad, even though it was her best acting moment in the movie, because she actually sold it. But then I was like, but the dialogue that she had to say about him being in bed with a man and like her reaction to it. I was like,
you
this
couldn't compete with all of your sexual proclivities and blah, blah, blah. He was in bed with a man.
I mean, my friends that I went to see that with in 93, we thought it was gross then too. So we were just like, really, Madonna? You just like, that was a point that took me out of the movie because I was just like, okay, Queen, you did not just let that dialogue stay in this script. Like, what? I'm
shocked she didn't have more creative control over that movie.
Yeah, I have to wonder about that.
But you know what? This was the other thing about her entire Hollywood existence is she almost never exerted the kind of control that she had over everything else. Mm-hmm. She was like, I just want to be the actress and be the vessel for the director, right? Like, she's said this numerous times in interviews and you see it like when she's got a good director who knows what to do with her, Penny Marshall, Warren Beatty. Oh my God, I'm blanking on Susan's last name from Desperately Seeking, the director.
Susan Seidelman.
Mm-hmm. Mary Lambert also knew what to do with Madonna. Like, but thank God she didn't put her in Pet Sematary. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But honestly, I would have loved to see, I think that was always my problem with some of Madonna's failed, quote unquote, failed roles is that she wasn't transcending the character enough. So you have a problem seeing her as this normal person, this person on trial. You know, it's like, you just don't buy it. And I think if she was in slightly more fantastical roles, you know, like if she was in a horror movie, like I would have enjoyed that, you know,
I was thinking about like what you just said triggered me to think about her look as I wonder how it would have been different if she'd had like dark hair and if there would have been a little bit more like darkness to just the whole character in general. Maybe that wasn't as appealing for whatever reason visually, but I don't know, just kind of thought about like her makeup is sort of demure but when she has darker hair.
If Goth Donna showed up in Body of Evidence, we would have known she was guilty from the get-go.
No. She's got dark hair until she whispers that, and then she walks out in the hallway and Open Your Heart, pulls the wig off, and she flips it, and she's blonde Rebecca the villainess. Oh my God, Liberty, that's genius.
Okay.
I found the loophole. Yeah, no, I mean, think about like that. But
my God, that would have been everything.
Yeah, that would have been really cool.
Or like that like there was a videotape that they find of like the person having sex with the old man, and it's like it's a blonde, but so it can't be Rebecca because Rebecca's a brunette, and then that's where you see her.
Yeah.
She's getting
worked.
into the car. She's getting into the car, and she pulls the. Oh my god! It would have been fantastic.
So it would have worked with our idea that like the whole "you almost made me believe it" revelation was the end of Act 1, and that's when she then walks out of the courtroom, takes off, and we find out as the audience that she's blonde. And then as they go through the movie, like uncovering the truth, they're like, "Wait, there's two people."
Right.
Oh my god! And what
like,
if she was a split personality?
Yeah,
see, exactly. Like that's the thing. Like I think Rebecca's character was too boring and basic. Like
all the characters were boring and basic.
But see, I don't know if we would have been able to, because wasn't Catherine Trammell in Basic Instinct? Wasn't she sort of like a little psychotic? Wasn't that her the bend of her?
I mean, pretty much, yeah. She had some sort of like mental illness issue because there was a lot of pushback when that movie came out about how it portrayed bisexuals and all this stuff. I mean, people like picketed that movie. I remember that because I was a senior in high school and we literally all lied and said we were going to like a National Honor Society thing, and we went to see Basic Instinct instead.
That's a good one.
Almost no one's parents would like give them permission to go see it. But like, so I was like, well, let's make up a fake National Honor Society event and we'll all go see Basic Instinct instead.
Oh, funny.
You're giving the younger generation some good ideas here. I think nowadays they're just like
they're just
they don't make up stories now. They just go.
Yeah. They just Snapchat it and do whatever they want. So,
so wait, one person goes to the movie theater and they just watch TikTok videos of it.
Oh yeah. Well, one person goes to the movie theater and then live streams it. The rest of their friends watch it from home.
Yeah.
I think, for example, my husband hasn't seen the movie in a long, long time, or if he's ever seen it, but he knows, because I said, I have to watch Body of Evidence, it's for the podcast and everything. Oh, that's the movie with the candle wax. Like that's the thing that he, or most people remember, is that scene. And there's this part where she like is, interchanging between the candle wax and the champagne, and then she's licking, right? And she gets wax on her mouth, and I cannot with that, like,
it's kind of like Slurpee. Like,
Well, maybe it was a flavored soy candle, and it was all
Well, they used to make those like Coke filled wax candies. You could like chew.
Oh no, but a lot of the candles like that are usually like flavored and slightly edible. Like, you're good.
She's fine. The texture for me.
Yeah, she's fine. Yeah. What I was going to say a little bit ago, one of the great things I love about this movie also is that it is yet again another movie that Madonna dies in. And I've mentioned this many times on the show where, old Hollywood had certain rules about certain actors where you were not allowed to have them get killed in a movie because it would have, like, their fan base wouldn't allow it.
Right. Yeah.
Madonna, on the other hand, is like killed in almost every single movie she does. Like she was killed in Dick Tracy. She's killed in Body of Evidence. She's killed. I think there's another movie she does, and I'm trying to think.
Well, she does die in Bad Girl.
Right, but that's the thing. So like you're okay seeing Madonna die because I think people.
Oh, Evita, she dies in Evita.
Right? Yeah.
I cried when she died there. Though.
But there's I love that rule has always not applied to Madonna.
She plays a tragic character often. I mean, there's in Swept Away, and I think she's drawn to that in a lot of ways. I don't know. I do have a lot. Actually, just having mentioned Bad Girl, I have so much trouble separating Louise Oriole from Rebecca Carlson. Like the two of them for me for a long time kind of were one and the same.
Yeah.
Until I started it. Oh, okay. So this wasn't in the movie. Okay.
But you're onto something because Bad Girl is a better version of Body of Evidence than, imagine
much
if David
preferred
Fincher had directed Body of Evidence instead of this other
completely
dude.
With Christopher Walken instead.
Yeah, I would have much preferred to see Bad Girl, the feature film.
Yeah.
As opposed to Body of Evidence.
Like literally David Fincher proved how good he was in those 5 minutes. Like he made a better movie than Body of Evidence.
Yeah. And it was like, I would have Louise Oriole, there was so much there's so much mystery and character, like what's going on. Like I would have loved to have,
and the panties in the sink is everything.
yes. There's so much.
We've all been there and had
like
to
what was the mail that she wasn't opening? You know, like how all that mail that was just collecting
death certificates.
But there was a much fuller character. Like I love that in 5 minutes they developed a character, not a peep. And it's just the power of music video. I think that's why
when they cared. Yeah,
and it's a great song.
A great
and her
song.
Makeup is better.
I mean, her styling. Yes. I mean, the power suits.
But it was kind of the same styling as Body of Evidence. It was just lit better.
Lit so much better.
Yes.
Well, exactly. Like, and maybe that's what happened. Maybe Madonna saw Body of Evidence in, like before it came out, and she was just like, "Get me a good video of we're doing Bad Girl," and they just had to come out with that because she was like, "I want to show people that I can do." I mean, because she's a prolific actress in Bad Girl. Like, that's a great performance that she does in that. And far superior to Body of Evidence. It's a shame.
I can watch that video over and over.
Same. I'll probably watch it after
underrated. It never makes like best of lists of music videos, but honestly, it's in her like top 5.
Totally.
Easy.
Oh, easy.
Easy.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's those the cut shots where
the
like
cinematography where like the guy's wiping the bartender is wiping like. It's the shot of, I love the shot of the radiator that then superimposes onto the city and
the cigarette, the lighting of the
and also Liberty, like you were saying, separating Louise Oriole from Rebecca Carlson. Louise Oriole wears that beret sitting in the diner lighting the cigarette, and it's very similar to, like the comparisons are very on point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, Rebecca. Oh, that was the other thing.
Oh, wait, we have to talk about, okay, so we've only really talked about her and Willem Dafoe. We've got to get to like some of the other actors.
Okay.
Like, hello,
Sure.
Julianne Moore, slap heard round the internet.
It's what so many people have wanted to do for all these 40 years. Slap Madonna right across the face.
And yet, poor Julianne Moore, she said she was so nervous having to do that because she was like, I have to slap Madonna.
Yeah, I couldn't have done it.
Oh,
I couldn't even talk to Madonna. But
it's iconic at this point. Like, she should just own it and be like,
wish me luck.
Yeah. I wish they had pulled back for a wide shot so we could really see her like hauling off and like whacking her, because it's framed in this weird way that you don't actually see the hand.
They're filming through the mirror and then they do like a reverse shot. So it looks like the continuity is off, but it's really, they are shooting one way through the mirror and then they shoot outside of the mirror. So it is continuity correct, but the way, because of the mirror, things are reversed so that it's flipped weird.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you never actually see her like whack her.
How many takes I have to wonder.
Again,
can I do that again?
That scene would have been much better if Rebecca was actually like, I mean, because she's taunting her character.
Yeah.
She's taunting poor lost Julianne, and it's just we would have reveled in it a little bit more. The way that they paint Rebecca is like, oh, she slapped her, you're supposed to feel sorry for her. But it's like, no. Like, I would have loved if like Rebecca slapped her back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they wasted Anne Archer, who had been so good in so many movies. Luckily, she was in the Harrison Ford, was it Sum of All Fears or whatever, Patriot Game or whatever. She was in a Harrison Ford like spy movie later that year that was a huge hit. So thank God, like, it didn't damage her career too much. But man, she was terrible in this movie. Like, she clearly was just like, am I just doing this for the check for the mortgage agents? And they were like, yeah, this is to pay your mortgage. And she was like, okay. Yeah, just so terrible. Oh my goodness.
I know. And I literally, out of anyone in that movie, I have passed by Julianne Moore like 4 times in New York City, and every single time I have walked by Julianne Moore, all I've wanted to do is ask her about Body of Evidence. But I'm like,
Stefan, the next time you pass her, just go, wish me luck. and see if she like turns around and hits you with her purse. Have your camera ready. Have your phone ready so you can record it. Not for the internet, but to send to us.
When I passed Bjork in New York City one time,
I wouldn't talk to her. She'll kick your ass.
I was afraid she would beat me if I
she's like
Bjork,
the size
I
of
love
my
you. Like I was
thigh,
like, oh my god, she'll attack me like she did that reporter at the airport. And I was like, no, thank you.
She'll throw you in the volcano. No.
I'm like, I don't know if this is her human behavior.
Oh, goodness.
But no, thank you, Bjork.
Nope.
Well, is there anything else we need to talk about with Body of Evidence? I feel like there's
I think we've covered it.
Other than the fact that I hated Madonna's name, the character Rebecca. Seriously, why does Madonna get some of the worst names in movies?
Those are good, like Catholic names.
Rebecca. Yeah.
So many of her characters have like bizarre Catholic names that sound like it sounds like it's supposed to be a 4-name Catholic name. So like first name, middle name, confirmation name, last name, but her characters only have the middle name and the confirmation name.
Yeah.
And it's
like
so
Gloria
weird.
Tatlock.
Yeah.
Terrible name. Rebecca Carlson. Terrible name. You know,
the only one that worked was May Mortavito.
I love that. Well, Nikki Finn. I love Susan.
Nikki Finn is good. Wait, what was her name in that ridiculous Next Best Thing?
Oh, that was the other one.
Abby or something like that.
Ew.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I love that movie too.
We'll get to that next summer.
I know.
Oh, joy.
Well, that's our show for today, everybody. Thanks again for joining us. Remember, you can find us on Instagram and Threads at MLVC Podcast. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, head over there and subscribe so you never miss a video. You can also donate to the show. We're on Venmo at MLVC Podcast, or think about becoming a subscriber. Help keep the show going. patreon.podbean.com/MLVC Podcast. I'm going to go get a belt and some hot candle wax and have a fun Friday evening.
I'm going to find some old man to like do under to get his cash. Like, what are you talking about?
I'm going to break this light with my heel.
With your stiletto?
With my stiletto.
It sounds like you're about to have a more fun night than we are.
Yeah. I'm all about myself
we should also mention that we kind of briefly touched on it earlier, but if people want to see the movie, currently it is on the free streaming service Tubi.
Yes. You'll have to sit through a couple commercials.
Yeah, you got to watch some commercials.
You'll need the break.
You'll
appreciate the commercial breaks. Trust me.
You absolutely will. You will. Oh my gosh. I can't believe we watched this movie and talked about it. I really can't.
I'm sure somebody at Tubi is like, well, that's weird. 3 people have watched it this week. That's crazy.
Oh no. And if like enough people who watch this video like go and stream it, there'll be some like weird report. The most streamed movie on Tubi in the month of August was Body of Evidence. And then there'll be like weird essays and like Vulture and The Cut, like revisiting.
Body of Evidence has seen a resurgence, you know?
Oh my God. Yeah. And, then Julianne Moore will be on Andy Cohen's show and he'll be asking her about it. And she'll be like,
did you hear Body of Evidence is the #1 movie on Tubi right now?
And someone will go, wish me luck. And she'll just reach over and slap them. Oh my God.
Oh man. So there's like an uptick in the sale of berets, you know?
Yeah.
Now that I would not be mad about.
Like a whole section on the movie. You know how there's always like this kind of movie and this kind of movie.
At the celebration tour, there's a Rebecca Carlson section.
Yeah. Erotic courtroom dramas.
Get your pearls in your beret.
There'll be berets for American Life. It's so funny how she like always circles back to things eventually.
Yeah. So. I think there's, she kind of thinks it makes her look, more mysterious or more artsy. It makes her
look very smart, I think.
She's an art gallery owner in the film,
Yes.
Sure.
She owns an art gallery.
I did wonder if some of that art, I wish I could have slowed it down to see if some of the art was her from her personal collection. Because, these days, isn't she one of like the people that loans out the most of their personal collection to like traveling shows? Like, because I think she's like the largest private owner of like Matisse and the artist that was in the Vogue video. Tamika,
yeah,
you know who I'm talking about.
Tamar Lempicka.
Yeah, and like there are several artists that she like owns more of their work than anybody else. It's so
Also
crazy.
Kahlo. She has a lot of Frida Kahlo.
Yes, a lot of the Frida Kahlo stuff.
Again, that's the movie I want to see.
What?
Give me more of art collector Rebecca Carlson, you know?
I mean, hey, if anybody wants to give us, I don't know.
Maybe she's having sex with old men so she can get their paintings, you know?
A couple thousand.
Maybe
we'll write the
they
script.
can do a remake, and instead of Rebecca, it's Brad, and Rocco can play the character. Because that photo slide she did of him for his birthday, I was like, wow, he kind of looks like Madonna in her Rebecca Carlson era. I was like, okay, Rocco, get up in here with your dirty movie thriller. Do it like mommy would.
I could not think about that at all.
Oh, I
At
would
all.
100% watch it. Like, whatever.
Oh, no.
That would be hilarious.
Well, thanks for joining us, everybody, for this Madonna Summer Movie Series. We hope you've had as much fun as we have.
We did have a lot of fun.
We did.
I did, yeah. This was great.
We'll see you later at the function, everybody.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.
If I didn't fuck you,
It works.
You slept with him?
I don't think we ever slept, did we, Frank? Don't look so hurt, Alan. I fucked you, I fucked Andrew, I fucked Frank. That's what I do. I fuck.